I'm AJ.
I'm Randi, and this is Bourbon, Wine, and True Crime, a podcast where three friendly but antisocial friends sit down once a week to drink together virtually and discuss true crime. And obviously, this week there were two.
And antisocial, I mean, Sunny has been MIA for 2 weeks now. I think she's the most social out of the two of us. Her social calendar is just insane. So she is not here with us today. She is out in Napa Valley enjoying some Nappy Valley. Mm-hmm. I bet her man is enjoying some Nappy Valley too.
Wow.
Wow.
Sunny takes all of the social for the two of us.
She really does, and you know what? We appreciate her for that. Yes, because we don't have to do it.
My social commitments end at my bi-weekly D&D game. Yeah, that's as social as I can get.
After spending hundreds of hours with teenagers all week, my battery is like gone. So on the weekends, I'm like, no, thank you. It's few and far between.
Yeah. So. When I first got back from Iraq, I was telling Eduardo, I was like, I want to be one of those fun couples that's doing things. So for like the first 2 months after I got back, every weekend, for the whole weekend, we were doing things. Like we were seeing friends, we were going to shows. And then I realized I was very tired and very grumpy. Yeah. So now it's like, maybe like every third weekend, we'll go out and do stuff, and very limited amount of time. Never both days of the weekend. One day we always have where we're just like playing video games or being lazy or reading books.
Yeah. Oh, I got a new book. I'm so excited. I got a book, and it's called, is it Under the Sea or Part of Your World?
Oh, is it the other side of the fairy tale?
Yes. So if Ursula had never been defeated.
It's Part of Your World.
Part of Your World. Okay, so I just checked it out of our library and I started reading it last night and I'm super excited about it. The older I get, the more I identify with Ursula.
Yeah.
And the more I find Ariel juvenile. And I love Ariel. She's my favorite Disney princess, but can we just have more Ursula in our life, please?
It's like I identify more with Maleficent as I get older.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you mean you didn't invite me to the party?
Yeah. What is that phrase? You either die young or live long enough to become the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad to be the villain. It's fine.
I have that same book on my bookshelf. I'll have to read it so we can talk about it. I just I have Eddie's reading this right now. It's called The Midnight Library.
Uh-huh.
And it's so good. So he's reading that. And then we went to this bookstore here yesterday and I finally bought The Life of Pi. So I want to read that because I want to watch the book. Or watch the movie. Read the book, watch the movie.
Pablo is obsessed with that movie. He watches that movie multiple times a year with his class. And he's obsessed with it. He loves it. Confession, I've never seen it from beginning to end.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet either.
It has gooey emotions, and I don't do good with gooey emotions. I don't want to deal with that.
I don't like emotions either, so I'll let you know when I finally watch the movie if it's like worth making it through. So I'm not a big touchy-feely mean.
No, I choose just not to go there in my life.
Well,
I'm too old for that shit.
Speaking of fantasy worlds, you have an interesting case for today.
I sure do, and that will play in perfectly to what we're going to talk about today. So the story we're going to talk about is an ongoing case. It's by no means complete, and this is going to be a multi-part, who knows how many, because it hasn't even gone to trial yet. So this could be a while in the making before we really have a finality and a wrap to this story. But we're going to be talking today about the cult mom killer, also known as Lori Vallow.
Ooh.
And she had a lot of names, but her most recent one is Lori Vallow. That's the one that she's legally attached to at the moment. But you know what? Who knows? She lives in a very fantastical world. She could name herself something completely different next week. I don't know.
Like she was married, what, 5 times?
So far that we know.
So far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it before we started recording. I heard something because I want to say this is going on when I was in Iraq, and I really wasn't following the news at all. But I think the only thing that I remember hearing about it is this. This mom was living in Hawaii. I heard Hawaii, and I thought that she was just on vacation there, but she lived there, and her children were just missing. And she's like, "Oh, so they're with their aunt.
They're fine. They're happy."
Fine.
Yeah, that was her story.
School. Name it's midnight.
Well, let's not bury the lead.
Okay.
But what are you drinking today? Are you enjoying something fun?
I am. One of my friends left this after the Super Bowl party that I had at my house, which I'm sad about and I don't want to talk about. But it's called Snowcap Cider, and it looks like it's local to Colorado. So
cool.
Good for the winter.
Is it beverage. Like an apple or a?
Yeah, it's a Honey Crisp cider with 6.9% alcohol.
Oh, cool. That's a robust ABV.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Produced and bottled by Snowcap Cider in Austin, Colorado.
Nice.
We like local things. Nice.
Absolutely. Support local business.
Yes.
Fantastic. I'm doing the Randi thing today. I did a little bit of vodka, some grapefruit juice, and that's my cocktail for today. And I also have some water because it is so dry here. I'm so dehydrated. I've got to chug the water because it's so dry right now. We have 51-mile-an-hour winds right now, and
oh no,
it's 55 degrees, so it's hot and windy. It's gross.
Yeah. I woke up to it so long ago, so I also have some tea, and I wanted to show you this little tea guide that I have.
Oh, that's perfect! How fun!
It looks like a little unicorn floaty in my teacup.
In your Little Mermaid teacup.
Ironic, because this was here before we started talking.
It is, because we're witches like that, see?
We
already knew. That was already manifested. Absolutely.
That's so funny, because I have a billion teacups, and this is one I grabbed today.
Cool. Well, it was perfect. That's it, like your energy drew you to it. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, shall we jump in?
Shall we? Yes. Do you want to start with yours, or do you want me to start with Chad Daybell?
I think let's start on my side, and then at the end of it, at the end of my notes, we'll get to Chad, and it'll be a perfect way to bring some background on him. Okay. Now, full disclosure, okay? How much do you love me?
Lots.
Okay, good, because I have a lot of notes.
Let's go.
And this is just part one. Okay, This is just part one, but there's so much to this case. I literally couldn't include all of it, but I included really critical pieces. This could be a whole podcast on its own, honestly and truly. So I did try to filter it down to key points and the timeline and background and introduction and things like that, but there's a lot of information, so yeah.
Well, I love lots of information,
and I'm fascinated. I'm very fixated on this case, and we'll get into it. So let's do that now. Okay, so in this episode, we're going to be delving into one of the most disturbing criminal. I can't hold on. Blah, 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 blah. Take two. All right, we're going to be delving into one of the most disturbing criminal cases of recent times, the Lori Vallow case. Lori Vallow was a seemingly normal mother living in Arizona until her life took a twisted turn that led to a string of mysterious deaths and disappearances. It all started when Lori's husband, Charles Vallow, was shot dead by her brother, Alex Cox, in July 2019. Just weeks later, Lori's two children, Ty Lee Ryan and Joshua J.J. Vallow, disappeared without a trace. What followed was a bizarre and complex investigation that would span multiple states, involve a doomsday cult, and reveal a web of lies and deceit. Bum, bum, bum.
So creepy. I didn't realize how quickly everything happened.
Mm-hmm. Lori was eventually charged with multiple conspiracies and other crimes in connections with the disappearances of her children. As the details of the case unfolded, it became clear that Lori had become involved in a dangerous group that believed in an extreme version of religious prophecy and was willing to go to great lengths to bring it to fruition. This case not only sheds light on the dangers of extremist beliefs, but also the lengths people will go to when they believe they are above the law. We will explore the twists and turns of Lori Vallow's case and try to understand what led a seemingly ordinary mother to become embroiled in such a dark and disturbing world.
Creepy.
All right. So
As
Lori
you say that, I'm
Vallow.
looking at the dozens of books Chad Daybell wrote about the end of days. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So Lori Vallow was born Lori Noreen Cox, June 26, 1973, in San Bernardino, California. She's a Cancer. Her father was Barry Cox, and his wife was Janice, or is Janice. Janice, I know for sure, is still alive. There's little about Barry right now, but I think he's still with us. Like, I think he's still alive. In 1974, so a year after Lori was born, Barry ran for city council. And both Barry and Janice, I almost called him Larry, both Barry and Janice were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They were Mormons. They were Mormons from Brigham Young University. And I'm not, let me be clear up front. And throughout the 60s and 70s, what I read was he worked in both biochemistry and law. So he's running for city council, he's working in science, he's trying to also have a law office. And that even becomes very questionable for her dad later on. He's not so straight arrow, but that was his work. Lori was one of 5 siblings. She was raised in the Mormon faith. And by Latter-day Saints, they do believe that they're living in the literal latter days of our existence, that Jesus Christ is coming and these are the end times. So that's the literal interpretation of Latter-day Saints.
Did not know that.
So Lori was often described as sweet and quiet. Her brother Adam also adds that she was fun-loving and popular. Lori and Adam swam together. He taught her how to play basketball, and she even became a cheerleader. She had another brother. So besides Adam, she had another brother, Alex Cox. And according to one source, unfortunately, trigger warning, child rape. So if you need to hop ahead, go ahead and do that right now. And it's a very credible source that Alex tried to have sex with Lori when she was in the 7th grade. So he was older, she was in the 7th grade, and he's trying to have sex with her. And this came out because one of her friends was having a sleepover with her, and she starts crying, and she's telling her friend that Alex tried to have sex with her, and she didn't know what to do.
Jeez.
But after that discussion with her friend, it was never brought up again. So very little is known about that, except for that she did confide in a childhood friend that this did happen.
Right.
And so while it's unclear if Alex continued to pursue Lori sexually as a child, his obsession with her would continue for several more decades, with other friends of the family voicing concerns over the pair's strong bond and behavior even years later. So I don't want to victim blame. Lori was definitely the child victim in that scenario. But we'll get into it as we go on, that her relationship with her brother Alex was certainly not traditional.
You could feel bad for the child and not condone what the adult did.
Correct. I agree. Yeah. So she also had 2 other sisters. She had a sister Stacy and a sister Summer. Stacy has passed away. She developed a type of diabetes during pregnancy, and she died as a result of that because she couldn't absorb nutrients. And I just bring that up because it's an additional trauma to lose a sister like that.
Yeah.
Lori eventually graduated from Eisenhower High School in 1991. I imagine those yearbook pictures with like 90s hair and like primed, permed hair.
All the hairspray.
All the hairspray, all the Aquanet. So by 1992, a year after high school, she married her high school boyfriend, Nelson Yanes, or Yanis, Yanes, Yanis.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Yanis. But the marriage ended in divorce shortly after that. And what I read, I think they were married a couple of days and then got a divorce.
Oh, geez.
So I think she was about 19 in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple years later, at the age of 22, she married a 23-year-old William Lagioia, Lagioia, Lagioia,
sure.
in Travis County, Texas.
But now she's in Texas.
Now she's bounced. She likes to move. So she married him on October 22nd, 1995. She and Lagioia had a son, Colby, in 1996. And they divorced February same year.
Oh, wow.
So now, oh, no, I'm sorry, February 1998. Okay. So Colby was still a toddler by the time they divorced. So this is husband number 2. And she's only 22, 23. So we jump ahead just a few years. In 2001, she married Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., and he legally adopted her son Colby, changing his name to Colby Ryan. While she was married to Joseph, on September 24th, 2002, she gave birth to a beautiful baby daughter named Tylee Ryan. Not that it has anything to do with this, but just quick side story. My Honda Civic Si, her name is Tylee.
That's ironic.
Yeah, it a little is. On August 13th, 2004, Joseph filed for divorce, which was finalized in May of 2005. Jump ahead 2 years, her brother Alex in 2007 of August, he attacks Joseph Ryan in Travis County with a taser and told him he was going to murder him. Okay. So this is the weird brother Alex. Mm-hmm. So Alex eventually pleads guilty and serves 90 days in jail in Austin, Texas. And unfortunately, we're going to jump just a little bit ahead for Joseph Ryan, just because he's part of the story. He did die in 2018 of a myocardial infarction, so a heart attack. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what, her third husband?
Yes.
Yeah. So he passes from a heart attack. Okay. So they divorced in 2004. On February 24th, 2006, she marries Leland Anthony Charles Vallow. So we're going to going forward, we're going to call him Charles Vallow because that's what he's referred to as, and that's what he called himself. So Charles Vallow. So by now she has Colby and she has Tylee. So Charles Vallow, a lifelong Catholic, became a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, converting to his new wife's faith. Like, good on you. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but also you don't have to do that. You don't have to. You shouldn't have to, but okay. Cool. So Charles had 2 sons from a previous marriage, Nicholas and Zachary. And in 2013, the couple adopted Vallow's grandnephew, Joshua J.J. Jackson. And he was not born with that name. He had a different name at birth, but when they adopted him, they changed his name to JJ.
Okay.
All right. I agree, and he was already, you know what? I'm not going to speak to that because I don't know how old he was when they adopted him, but they changed his name. And I don't have this anywhere in my notes, but I do want to just point out that JJ did have autism and he was on the spectrum. And so I do feel like that's just something to point out because he was so innocent. Yeah. So completely innocent. All right. They're a little family. So now it's Colby, Tylee, and JJ, and Charles and Lori. They all moved to Kauai, Hawaii around 2014. The next year, somewhere in 2015, Lori starts to read Chad Daybell's Standing in Holy Places series of books.
Yep.
And reportedly became obsessed with them. Now, I had never heard of this book series and I had to look it up. And it kind of reminded me of like Left Behind, right, except the apocalypse hadn't happened yet. So like in Left Behind, the apocalypse has happened. In these series, they're more like preparing the believers for the inevitable end times.
Right. When I was reading the synopsises on Amazon, it was the apocalypse hadn't happened yet, but it seems like there's a lot of craziness going on in the US. Like the US is being invaded by either our army or a foreign army, and it's a small group of religious pure people that are guiding the other religiously pure people to the right path, quote unquote.
Right. The right path, because it's only that one.
Just the one.
It's so arrogant. Can I just like take a sidestep for just a second?
Yes.
Like, I was raised in faith. I was raised in the church. And I don't not believe in those beliefs. I know that's maybe sounds a little negative. But there's so much more to this world when you open your mind and you open your ability to accept things and to process things. Like, it's so much bigger than just white Christian belief systems. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Dogma, but he's like Christian mythology. Like, it's just like, look, can we get away from that just a little bit and kind of appreciate everybody's culture and structures, and maybe contemplate the idea that other people might be right?
Right. I mean, because we don't know and we won't know. And I do appreciate people having faith to where you can't prove it, you can't disprove it, but you believe what you believe. I don't like the part of it that a lot of people hold very firmly, that they are right and nobody else is right. Even if it's people that are reading the same holy book, they're wrong because whatever reason. I think that, like you said, you should be open to other people's beliefs, that you can believe what you believe, but other people can believe what they believe as well.
Exactly. Without being violent, without being hateful. Like, can we get away from that?
Right. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Okay. So Lori has a niece. Her name is Melanie Gibb, and Melanie is married to her husband, and his name is Brandon. And I only bring this up because Melanie was along with her for the ride, and Brandon's going to come into play a little bit later. We'll see about that, but I bring her up because she's a key player, right? So Lori and her niece Melanie attend a conference called Preparing the People, or Preparing a People event, where Lori was introduced to Chad for the first time. So Chad Daybell is there, and they get introduced. And according to Melanie, by the end of the weekend, took 1 weekend. Okay, that's 1 weekend. Chad told Lori that they had been married in 7 previous lifetimes.
Okay.
And at that point, the two began a private communication. So here we have this woman set up in a faith already, where the end of times, we're living in them. You must prepare for the coming. It's going to happen in our lifetime. She's already raised in this mindset.
Right.
And then along comes this guy who is right there with her. On December 5th, 2018, she was invited to join Chad in an episode of Preparing a People podcast.
Yep.
Titled Time to Warrior Up.
Okay.
Now, you can't get much more Caucasian fucking patriarchy than that. I mean, you just can't.
Oh, I think you can get a little bit more if it's time to patriot up.
There you go. Okay, you know what? You're right. That's where it went.
Me and Eduardo were talking about just like how people, like the prejudicial extremists, have taken like words that were fine and just twisted them around. And I was like, yeah, if I'm talking to somebody and they say the word patriot, I'm like, ugh. Where this is gonna go one of two ways. It's gonna go, you don't know how much that word has just been like
tortured.
Or you're one of those people that has a certain red hat.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. We could just go down a rabbit hole, but I'm gonna We got a lot of notes, and I'm going to try to not keep everybody for 2.5 hours. Okay, so this was in December. She joins Chad in this podcast, and January, so a little about 6 weeks later, Lori transfers 10 grand out of Charles' business account into an unknown account. And then she also transfers 2,000 enterprise points to her personal account while Charles is away on a business trip.
Mm-hmm.
She then transfers an additional $25,000 out of another business account to another unknown account, or it could be the same business account and the same unknown account. That was not made clear.
Right.
She does this by the end of January. She vanishes February 10th, 2019. She doesn't reappear until April 9th. So right before she disappears, she tells Charles that she no longer cares about him or JJ, and that she is the reincarnated wife of Joseph Smith, the father of Mormonism and the LDS Church. Now, I was talking to Pablo about this, and I'm like, that's who she chose to be a reincarnated wife of? Like, really? Of all the dead dudes, you picked him?
So
I don't get it, but
does this mean that Chad Daybell is the reincarnated guy of Joseph Smith? Because he told her they were married in 7 lifetimes before.
I hadn't considered that, but that's, I think, a possibility. Yeah. I had not thought about that.
The way I think that if you have some kind of mental imbalance, I think that you can, and they're doing studies on this, like nature versus nurture, but I feel like she already had something in there. Obviously, she had to have, that was just twisted. And maybe she could have lived a normal life if she hadn't met this dude because she's already thinking she's the reincarnated whatever, and the stuff that I was reading, she's the chosen leader of the people during the apocalypse, and then she meets somebody that also believes those same things and just knows the right things to say, or just happens to say these right things that take that little twist, and it just
just pull that thread.
Yeah.
By this time, like, Charles was already concerned about her mental health, her extreme beliefs. Like, she was attending these apocalypse meetings. She was already exhibiting these very concerning signs to him. So he was worried about her, and he had tried to like get her committed. He had voiced his concerns to the schools. Like, he wasn't sitting down and just taking it quietly. Like, he loved his wife, but he knew she needed help, and she was refusing. He was worried about his kids, that he'd go a while without talking to them, and he was really concerned. And so he did file reports. Like, he did his due diligence. But as we're going to see soon, like, it didn't do anything to help the situation.
He went to the police as well.
He did. So she disappears on February 10th, but right before she disappears on February 8th, Charles actually files for divorce. But oddly enough, while she's vanished, he withdraws his divorce petition on March 6th. So we fast forward just a tiny bit, and in July of 2019, around July 11th, Charles calls the police to come to his house in Chandler, Arizona. He comes home. The furniture is gone out of the house. Only Ty Lee is with Lori. JJ is not seen, or you don't see him in that part of the video. And I only say it because you can view the body cam video from the police. And Charles is walking up to the police, and he's like, I'm worried about my kids. My wife thinks she's a god. She thinks she's a reincarnated wife of Joseph Smith. Like, I'm worried about my wife. But then Lori like drives up, and she's like, everything's fine, officer. It's like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, I had to go pick up my daughter, and he's saying all these things, and I don't know what it is, but like, I'm scared to be around him.
Oh no.
And again, like, white woman privilege, the cops are like, okay. So they kind of like dismiss it a little bit, and that turns out to be a very fatal mistake.
And
the same say again.
I'm thinking of, who is the woman that was killed last year? Oh God, by her husband, and she called the cops on him, and it was the opposite, where she's freaking out and she's like worried, she's crying, and then he's super calm. The cops just dismiss it on behalf of the
Oh,
boyfriend.
Brian Laundrie and Petito.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Gabby
Gabby
Petito.
Petito. Yeah, the body cam footage is really disturbing of that.
So we don't want to say it's like I know you said white woman privilege, which does apply in a lot of scenarios, but I think in this scenario, it went the way it usually doesn't.
Mhm.
But it's also
I think in the Gabby Petito case, it was more white man privilege in that one. They were like, okay, Brian was like, everything's, it's okay. Like, we're just fighting. It's fine. And the police just kind of brushed it off.
cops called him bro. Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
So she's missing and he finally calls the police and she just happens to show back up when he's talking to them.
That is a little unclear. She reappears April 9th, and this happens in July. So we've got a little bit of time lapse between there. But her brother Alex is there with her. So Charles goes in the house and he's asking Lori, like, just bring my kids. Like, I just want to see my kids. And I don't know what transpires necessarily. Like, I know there's some documentaries and stuff, but Alex shoots Charles. And when the cops come, Alex tells them that Charles threatened him with a bat and was going to hurt him with the bat. And Alex had no choice but to defend himself, shoot Charles, and Charles dies by the hands of Alex.
And if you want to talk about premonition, I was reading that shortly before his death, Charles Vallow changed the beneficiary of his $1 million life insurance from Lori to his sister, Kay Woodcock, who was JJ's biological grandmother. And this was the months before he was shot.
Smart move. Smart move. So Alex shoots Charles in July, but shortly after that, Alex actually dies himself. He died of blood clots in Gilbert, Arizona in December of 2019, and his body wasn't even found for close to a week inside the home that he was at. Yeah. But it was ruled a natural death. He had blood clots in his lungs.
What?
And I don't know if this is true or if maybe I dreamt it, but I want to say he was found in the bathroom and he had fallen off the toilet. Maybe that's just what I want to be true. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm reading.
Okay. On October 2019, Lori buys a wedding ring for $35.99 on Amazon from Charles's account. On the same day, her nephew-in-law, Brandon Boudreaux, so this is Melanie Gibbs' husband. Remember Melanie from before? Brandon became the target of a failed drive-by shooting. So yeah, so we jumped to December when Alex dies, but now we're jumping back to October. Sorry for the timeline misconfusion, but now Alex is alive. This is October. Brandon survives a drive-by shooting from somebody in a green Jeep Cherokee that was actually registered to Charles Vallow, who has already died and now is in the possession of Lori. What? So the theory is that Alex was driving the Jeep and tried to shoot Brandon because he kind of stood in the way of bringing their prophecy to fruition.
What the hell?
So October, she buys the wedding ring, and on November 5th, 2019, she and Chad got married in Hawaii in an impromptu ceremony. Oh, well, she's a blushing bride for the fifth time. This is number 5. If we're keeping track, yeah, number 5. Yes.
I have tick marks.
Yep. We should play a drinking game for this.
Okay.
On November, yeah, let's just take a drink anyway.
Brought to you by
November 5th. Nice. Oh, I already read that. On November 26, 2019, the Rexburg Police Department learned that Tylee and JJ were missing. And on November 27th, 2019, Lori, and Chad themselves vanished. On December 20th, 2019, the department officially announced an investigation into the disappearances of the 2 children. Okay.
Do they know? I don't know let me know if you're going to get into it. Do they know if the kids ever made it to Hawaii?
They know now, and at the time they speculated that the kids were somewhere on Hawaii with them because
Mhm.
Lori had lived there previously with Charles, with Tylee and JJ. So they kind of speculated that the kids could be there. And one of the people that really was vocal about their disappearance was Lori's mother, Janice. She's a slightly questionable character, but I think that her motives were pure. She genuinely cared. She cared for her. She loved her grandkids, Tylee and JJ, and she kept begging Lori, like, "Let me see the kids. Let me talk to them. Where are they? Like, I know you wouldn't do anything to hurt them. Like, please just let us talk to them." So Janice was very vocal in the media about, wanting to know where the children were.
Mhm.
Now, I do say this, I don't know where Colby is after this time. Her oldest son that she had early
Mhm.
on in her marriages, he's not really mentioned again in the case. He had a run in with the law when he was older. But at this point, like, Colby's kind of out of the picture.
Mhm.
So it's just Tylee and JJ. So by January 25th, 2020, she and Chad were found in Kauai, where authorities served her with a court order ordering her to produce Tylee and JJ within 5 days. And there's a lot of media footage of her and Chad like walking hand in hand into like church services and small groups and all of these like events. They're following them throughout Hawaii, and neither one of them will comment to the media.
Yeah.
So she's required to produce the kids, but she misses the deadline on January 30th, 2020. And on February 20th, 2020, the Kauai Police Department arrests her in Princeville, Hawaii. And prosecutors in Madison County, Idaho, charge her with 2 felony counts of desertion and non support of dependent children, as well as 3 misdemeanors, namely resisting or obstructing officers, criminal solicitation to commit a crime, and contempt of court. She agrees to be extradited back to Idaho to fight the charges. On March 6th, 2020, she arrived in Rexburg and was taken to Madison County Jail. And on July 2nd, 2020, the prosecutors dropped the 2 felony counts and charged her instead with obstruction or concealment of evidence. I don't fully understand why they did that, but I'm sure there's a legal reason.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll bring charges that they think they can prove.
Yeah.
So since they don't have the bodies at this point, they're just trying to, it seems like they were probably trying to use what they could prove to keep her, in their jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. So up until this point, we've really focused on Lori's timeline, and we've talked briefly about Tylee and JJ. So we're gonna kind of redirect a little bit and fall back to Tylee and JJ just for a little bit, so we can kind of understand where they were and how we got to where we are now. So we're going to jump a little bit back to 2019 to understand where the kids were at this time. So in 2019 fall, Lori enrolls JJ at Kennedy Elementary in Rexburg. And I'm not sure where Rexburg is. Maybe Idaho. And less than 3 weeks later, she removes JJ. She withdraws him. But the school claims that Lori told them that he would be homeschooled, but there's no record of that either. Tylee is never officially enrolled in any schools in Idaho, and Tylee's quite a bit older than JJ. I want to say he was 11 and she was about 17 at this time, but I could be wrong because I don't age math very well.
No.
Yeah, I was a terrible waitress. I was like, "You're old enough? Cool, you can drink." So even though later Lori tells police that her daughter was attending BYU, Idaho as a college student, she's never seen as officially being enrolled there. So September 8th, Tylee is last seen alive at the entrance of Yellowstone National Park, along with Lori, Alex, and JJ. So Alex is with them. According to a photo obtained by the Rexburg Police Department, the FBI at this point comes forward and they're asking for anybody to submit any photos or anything of that area at the time so that they could start searching for Tylee. Photos later recovered by authorities from Lori's iCloud account showed Tylee with JJ and Alex at the park on the same day. Same day, Chad Daybell signs an application to increase the life insurance policy on his current wife, Tammy, to the maximum amount allowed.
Mm-hmm.
September 9th, phone records show Alex on Chad's property around the general area where Chad lived. And then Lori rents a 10 by 10 storage unit from Self Storage Plus in Rexburg. Surveillance video shows Lori and an unidentified male, believed to be Alex, visit the unit at least 9 times in October and once in November. October 9th, Tammy calls police. Wait, who's Tammy?
Tammy's Chad Daybell's.
Oh, Tammy's Chad's husband, or Chad's wife. Yeah, not husband. Oh. Okay. So right here we have Brandon, the nephew-in-law. He gets shot out by Alex in the green Jeep Cherokee, but he misses. October 9th, Tammy Daybell calls police claiming that she was shot at by a man using a defective paintball marker. That she even posts about the attack on Facebook, saying she had no idea who the person was or why they might be targeting her. I have a little bit more on Tammy. Do you want me to skip it?
Yeah, because I have some stuff on Tammy.
Okay, I'm gonna skip that. So November, Lori and Chad get married in Hawaii, and it's really disgusting. All of their pictures look so happy.
It's like nothing's going on.
Nothing's going on. Just this, like, what you would picture a Hawaiian wedding to be like, with like the leis and like white linen and beach hair. Like, what is wrong with you? Yeah.
Because both of them had a lot of just trauma in their lives that had just happened. Like weeks prior had just happened, and they're in Hawaii getting married.
Yep. Their serotonin levels are like through the roof.
Ooh.
So by November 26th, Tylee and Ryan's grandparents, Larry and Kay Woodcock, ask authorities to perform a welfare check on the children, who they haven't had contact with in months. Police report that they do not see any indication of the children in the townhome. Lori tells police that JJ was currently staying with her friend Melanie Gibb in Arizona. And at Lori and Chad's request, Melanie initially covers for the couple and tells police that JJ was with her. But she later asks the couple, why did I have to lie about JJ's whereabouts? And this is where I give props to Melanie for finally getting her head out of her fucking ass, because she's now suspecting that something is weird. And she has the forethought enough to record the conversation because of her growing suspicions.
If Sunny called, because she has a juvenile child, if Sunny called me and was like, hey, can you lie to his grandparents about where he's at?
He's with you. Just tell him he's with you.
I'm asking a lot of questions, because it's different if you call me and you're like, hey, me and Pablo got into an argument and I'm going to stay at a hotel, say that I'm with you. First and foremost, I'm going to make sure you're good. So I'm not lying and then you're like dead somewhere. But if somebody calls and asks you to lie about the whereabouts of children, that's something I'm not probably going to do.
Not okay with. No.
But you said props to her, so I'll let you keep going.
And that's the only props I'm going to give her, because she absolutely fanned the flames with Lori throughout this entire time. Like, they went to the conventions together, they read the books together, they were in deep. But Melanie finally like gets her head above water long enough to go, wait a minute, why am I having to lie about the whereabouts of a juvenile child who is my relation and your son? Like, what is going on here? So she records the conversation. The Rexburg Police Department acquire a search warrant to enter Lori and Chad's home while the couple are not there, and there are no sign of the children's whereabouts or the children. Like, there's no kids, or they're like even a sign that they were there. Like, toys on the floor, clothes, chicken nuggets, I don't know, all signs that you should have that a kid had been there. Police serve a search warrant to 3 apartments belonging to Lori, her brother Alex, and Melanie. By December 1st, 2019, court documents reveal that Lori and Chad take an American Airlines flight to Lihu, Lihue, Lihu, Hawaii. December 6th, Melanie contacts police and recants her initial statements, saying that Lori and Chad had asked her to lie about JG's whereabouts.
Mm-mm.
As deputies continue to investigate Chad, the Fremont County Sheriff's Office finds Tammy's death to be suspicious. I'm going to skip over that part real quick.
I got you.
At this point in December, this is when they find Alex Cox's body, Lori's brother. He's dead in his home and has been dead for almost a week when they find him. And his cause of death was determined to be natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're referring to Lori and Chad as persons of interest in the disappearance of JJ and Ty Lee. Rexburg police later on issue a news conference indicating they believe Lori knows what happens to her missing children and where they are. By 2020 January, authorities searched Chad's home in Salem. Computers, cell phones, journals, documents, and medications are taken and sent to an FBI lab for analysis. Later on, authorities in Kauai served Lori a notice stating she must produce her children to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare or to the Rexburg Police Department within 5 days or face obstruction charges.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to leave us right there. So she has to give the kids up. And as I stated before, she fails to do so. And that's where we will pick it up in the next time.
You want me to talk about Chad Daybell?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So some really interesting things. I'll get to it in a second. Because especially you were talking about this potentially suspicious nature of his wife Tammy's death, which the timing is definitely suspicious, but
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Chad Daybell was born August 11th in 1968 in Provo, Utah. I think that makes him a Leo.
What was the date?
August 11th.
Definitely a Leo.
Okay. So he married Tammy Douglas on March 9th in 1990. And he graduated with a BA in journalism from Brigham Young University in 1992. In 2004, because I was trying to figure out, this dude has a couple dozen books that are published, two different series about two different end of days scenarios. But he founded the Spring Creek Book Company, where he self-published his religious books, as well as fiction about the end of days. That's how he has so many books that were able to get published.
Because you're self-published. Oh my God.
I know.
Like, calm down, dude. You're not Pulitzer Prize winning anything. You're not even carried in Barnes and Noble. Can we not?
No,
maybe he is. I don't know. Yeah.
That would surprise me. He's on Amazon, but everything's on Amazon. In 2015, Chad said he heard a voice telling him to relocate his wife and 5 children to Rexburg, Idaho.
He had 5 kids?
He had 5 kids.
I've never read that.
Yeah.
That's insane. Wow.
5 children. So they moved in June of that year in 2015. Like you said, October 9th, 2019 is when Tammy filed the police report and also made the Facebook post about getting shot at in her driveway. So the weird thing, 10 days later, Tammy was found dead in her home. Now, everything else that I was reading, it was she was found dead in her home of natural causes 10 days before she had been shot at. Very suspicious. But the interesting thing is their children actually talked to CBS News about a year after all this broke open. And the timeline definitely overlaps. So before anyone knew the children were missing, like not even 2 weeks before, is when Tammy Daybell collapsed. And her children were actually in the home with her. So like I said, you read this other stuff, it seems like he just came home and she was just dead, but he was home with their children and she collapsed. And her children said, they told CBS News, Jonathan Vigliotti, that they were downstairs and they heard this thump upstairs. They ran upstairs. Their mom was like half on and half on the bed. And her daughter picked her up and she told her dad, like, I think mom's dead. Tammy Daybell had a lot of health complications up until then. She was fatigued very easily. She was out of breath very easily. And
I mean, same.
Girl, this elevation is no joke.
No.
But, and like, I'm going to kind of go back and forth because I think it is important to get information from multiple sources because things tend to get, I can't think this morning.
It tends to get convoluted, and there's a lot of speculation that gets added in.
Right.
There was a lot of resources I saw that she had 4 siblings, or she was one of 4 instead of one of 5. Well, Stacy passed, and so yes, there's 5. But yeah, there's a lot of like, uh, what is it when you take liberty in your writing? There's a lot of journalistic liberty. Yeah.
Unfortunately. So Emma Murray, one of Tammy's children, because the reporter, he's like, you know, everyone thinks that your dad didn't want an autopsy, because Tammy wasn't autopsied until a couple months later, I think it was. And so he's like, it seems suspicious that your dad didn't want an autopsy, and now the death is being ruled, you know, maybe not natural causes. Emma Murray said, the narrative is that he was going, no, 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 no autopsy, but he was standing there in complete shock, traumatized, letting us make the decision. If he was trying to hide something, I wouldn't leave something like that up to my kids if I was trying to hide something. So this, I'm thinking like, and obviously this hasn't even gone to trial yet. We don't know what's going on. But as I'm reading what their children are saying, I'm thinking maybe this might be more of like how we talked about with Susan Smith, the woman that murdered her kids. You know, she had the ex-boyfriend who had no idea what was going on. And I don't know if that's, I think it might be something like that, but the reason I don't think it's completely like that is because 2 weeks after Tammy died is when Chad got married. And this is also, like we were saying, the trauma that was going on in both of their lives. Her children were missing. And
to add another layer, Lori has already bought. Wait, hold on. Before I say that, what was Tammy's day of death?
October 19th, 2019.
Okay, so Lori buys the wedding ring. Let's see. She buys the wedding ring from Amazon on Charles's account for $36. October 2nd.
Yeah, the time is very
questionable.
So the family declined the autopsy. They said, the children said, as a collective decision that they made. And that decision is why other people started to question how she died. And then the children said that Lori Vallow, after that, just kind of appeared. But she was already in their lives. I think that they just didn't know about it.
Yeah. Well, she met Chad, that summer? Right? At the conference or whatnot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not a whole lot about Chad. Tammy's body was later exhumed and autopsied, and the results were completed by February of 2021, but they still haven't been made public. The Fremont County Prosecutor's Office said that they would handle the case going forward, but Tammy's family said they haven't been contacted regarding the results of their mother's autopsy.
Wow.
Those poor kids.
So we have one of her husband dies of a heart attack. Charles dies of a gunshot wound by her brother.
Right.
Another family member is shot at in the green Jeep that Charles owned after he died. Tammy falls down dead. And now we can't find Tylee or JJ.
Yep.
Call me crazy, but this is not circumstantial. This isn't like where there's smoke, there's fire. This is like where there is an entire village up in flames. You should be made aware.
Well, I'm curious what the results of her autopsy were, because after the results of the autopsy, like after the police had them, is when the prosecutor's office said that they were taking over the case. So I wonder if there was something there.
I'm hoping that comes out very soon. I don't know. Like we said, it hasn't come to trial yet. And one of the latest updates was that Lori's defense team filed for dismissal of charges due to unconstitutional imprisonment, that she was not being given a quick and speedy trial because she'd already been in jail so many thousands of days. But the court came back and dismissed it and said, no, well, your charges were filed on this day, and so you still are legally and lawfully being held. So it sounds like they got to get this show on the road.
Have they announced a trial date?
I have not seen one yet, but listeners, stay posted, because I am fascinated and glued to this case. She is she's a former beauty queen. Like, she knows how to speak to people.
Mhm.
She knows how to present herself very eloquently,
Oh, dude, there's
but
body
she
cam
is
footage.
batshit crazy.
There's the body cam footage that they got of the day that her husband, Charles, was shot. She's like
Hmm.
laughing and joking with the cops.
Yep. In her like yoga wear,
Hmm.
like
Oh,
like leaning against the car, like I just came from the gym. I'm so sweaty.
like, oh my God, I don't even know my neighbors yet. He,
Hmm. Yeah,
girl,
it's
shut up.
she's disgusting. She really is another level. As a mother, your job is to protect your kids and take care of them. So,
It seemed like she had enough family and friends that if she didn't want to be a mom anymore, she could have found a place for those children. Her daughter
absolutely.
was 16. She was
Uh-huh.
almost out the door.
Yep. That little boy was just precious too. The videos and pictures you see of him, you just want to hug that little cherub. He's so sweet and innocent. Um, so I think part two will start to dive a little deeper into the court proceedings as well as their cult beliefs, because
Yes.
that's another 30-minute discussion at minimum, is just what the core of their beliefs were. I read that it's very similar, it sounds like, to Jehovah's Witness, where like only 144,000 will
Hmm.
be taken up, and you have to prepare yourself for that end times. And so there's some parallelisms between their Mormon faith and the Jehovah's Witness. And so I want to kind of get into more of their belief system.
I want to get into because I have a fair amount of friends that are what I like to think of as the normal Mormons. And Mormon people do a lot of good in their community.
They do.
So I would like to talk about that. And then, yeah, the where her mind went in regards to her children is scary.
It's very scary.
So we
It's
have well, one more part, and then I'm sure there will be more once the trial actually begins. But
mhm.
oh, this is our first two-parter,
At
multi-parter.
minimum two multi-part. Multi-part. Maybe Sunny can join us for the next one. She'll have to get caught up. Let's see, Sunny, if you go back and listen to this episode, you need to text our group chat, and I want you to text us Nappy Valley.
Nappy Valley.
Nappy, so not Napa, but Nappy. You be in Nappy Valley right now?
Ha 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 ha. Well, thanks for listening, guys. And gals and everyone in between.
And we
So
promise we're going to do better. We're going to post on social media the pictures from the
yeah.
cases. Our resources will be in our show notes. If you're as fascinated with this case as we are, we hope you tune in together with us for the next part of this. But hey, our next episode, we're going to talk about something else. So join us for that. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, and if you have any
Like and subscribe.
recommendations, send us some case recommendations, like, subscribe, follow, leave a positive review. And we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.